faithfully delivering value, interpreting global bestsellers. Hello, this is Sally's book review. Today we're reviewing the book Audrey Hepburn with the subtitle Living a Life of Grace. Audrey Hepburn is one of the greatest actresses in film history. She played the elegant and sincere Princess Anne in Roman Holiday. As Princess Anne, she was the opinionated and inwardly struggling nun in the Nun's story. She was also Holly Golightly in Breakfast at Tiffany's, the girl playing guitar and singing Moon River. She was nominated for an Oscar 5 times and won the Best Actress award once. She was also a close friend of fashion master Hubert de Givenchy and was voted the most beautiful woman of all time by fashion magazines, considered the epitome of elegance. She was also called an angel who descended to earth, and in her later years, she devoted herself to LO, actively advocating for children in war-torn areas. The book we're discussing today is Audrey Hepburn's biography, written by Elliot, a fashion columnist. In the book, the author starts with Audrey Hepburn's origins and narrates her life story in a compelling way. How did Audrey embark on her acting career? What stories happened behind the scenes of Roman Holiday? What unknown past lies behind Moon River? Next, we'll explore Audrey Hepburn's extraordinary origins through 3 parts: her early experiences, film career, and personal life. Audrey Hepburn was born on May 4th, 1929, in Brussels, the capital of Belgium. Her mother, Ella van Heemstra, was a descendant of Dutch royalty and held the title of Baroness. Her father, Joseph Victor Anthony Rustin, was from England and served as an honorary consul in Java and Sumatra. Joseph believed his ancestor was James Hepburn, the third husband of Mary, Queen of Scots, and later changed his surname to Hepburn Rustin to appear more aristocratic, which is the origin of Audrey Hepburn's name. In Audrey's eyes, her mother was a true aristocrat, dignified and elegant, maintaining her dignity even in the midst of troubles. Her mother always demanded that Audrey adhere to aristocratic standards. She should be compassionate, refined, composed, self-disciplined, responsible, and never deliberately show off in front of others. Additionally, she should hold her tongue. Audrey was exposed to art from a young age. Her mother often took her to art galleries and concerts and sent her to school to receive a lady's education. It was there that Audrey fell in love with ballet. Compared to her strict mother, her father's love for little Audrey felt more intimate. Little Audrey was playful, loved climbing trees and feeding squirrels, often coming home dirty. Her father gave her the nickname Monkey Spirit. As an adult, when Audrey wrote to her father, she still signed off as Monkey Spirit. However, this happy time didn't last long. As the passion faded, Audrey's parents began arguing frequently. Her father disliked working but enjoyed socializing, and his political leanings became increasingly right-wing. Well, in the mid-1930s, Audrey's parents often secretly went out to raise funds for the British Union of Fascists. They even traveled to Munich to meet Hitler. In 1935, her father suddenly left without saying goodbye. Later, he moved to London and became more deeply involved in fascist activities, hardly participating in his daughter's life from then on. They even lost contact for 20 years. When her father left home, the reputation of fascism was already deteriorating. Her mother, Ella, realized the problem and severed all ties with the Fascist League. For Audrey, who was only 6 years old, her father's departure hit her hard. Later, when she recalled this, she said, "I felt the world collapsing when father left us, perhaps robbing us of a sense of security for life." In the autumn of 1939, her mother took Audrey to Arnhem, a city in eastern Netherlands, to live with her grandfather. Her 2 older brothers from her mother's first marriage also came to Arnhem to reunite with them, but the good life was soon interrupted by war. In May 1940, Germany invaded the Netherlands, and Arnhem fell. Looking back on that time, Audrey once said, "If we had known that Arnhem would be occupied by German troops for 5 years, we would have shot ourselves." All the property of her grandfather's family, including factories, real estate, and gold, was confiscated by the German army. But compared to the atrocities of the German army, this was nothing. The Germans planted spies in the city, and people had to be very careful when speaking or acting on the streets. Her mother, Ella, founded the Underground Resistance League. She and Audrey's uncle, William, used their local influence to gather volunteers to resist the Germans. When the German army invaded Arnhem, 5 days later, the Underground Resistance League joined forces with other organizations to blow up multiple railway bridges and supply stations used by the Germans to enter the Netherlands. But Uncle William and Audrey's two cousins were captured by the Germans. The Germans executed my uncle, my cousin, and other resistance members in the central square of Arnhem. Audrey saw her relatives being pressed against the wall and publicly shot. She could only hold her mother and cry silently. Her mother wasn't defeated by this event. Instead, she planned resistance strategies more meticulously. Like her mother, Audrey actively participated in the resistance movement. During the day, she went to school, studied, and danced. At night, she performed dances with classmates in unlit rooms. To raise funds for the Resistance League, Audrey also became a young intelligence agent under her mother's guidance. At the age of 13, she went alone to the forest on the outskirts of the city to find a missing British paratrooper and help him connect with resistance members. On her way to meet resistance members, Audrey was spotted by a German soldier. She pretended to be a little girl picking wildflowers and even gave him the flowers in her hand. The German soldier thought Audrey was just a child from an ordinary family. He accepted the bouquet, patted her head, and signaled her to leave quickly. Thus, Audrey escaped danger and successfully rescued the British paratrooper, but many others weren't as lucky. During the war, Audrey's two brothers were captured and their fate was unknown. The German Nazis also arrested and killed hundreds of Dutch people and Jews under the charges of violating Nazi laws and aiding the British army. At that time, the streets of Arnhem were like hell, with gunshots, people's cries, and screams intertwined. In 1943, as the Allies counterattacked, the German army forcibly requisitioned grain from Arnhem residents, and schools were ordered to close. At first, Audrey could still have one meal a day, but soon they had to subsist on bread made from peas and soup made from wild celery. In 1944, the Allies successively liberated Paris and Brussels and advanced into the Netherlands. In September that year, British Field Marshal Montgomery commanded a battle in the Netherlands, codenamed Operation Market Garden, aiming to break through the German defense line. The single quote market referred to the center of the German anti-aircraft defense line, the city of Arnhem. However, in this battle, the Allies suffered over half casualties and failed completely. The German army ordered all Arnhem residents to evacuate the city. Those who disobeyed would be shot. In the exodus of 90,000 people, 3,000 died on the way. Audrey's family settled in a dilapidated manor house left by her grandfather in the countryside. They did their best to help the displaced refugees, providing them with food and shelter. But as refugees kept increasing, Audrey and her mother couldn't provide any more food. Audrey remembered that winter was particularly harsh. Many people lost their lives to hunger and cold. She and her family survived on tulip bulbs, leading to malnutrition that gave Audrey jaundice. She could only lie in bed and pray silently. May the war end sooner. On May 4th, 1945, Audrey's 16th birthday, she heard the gunfire outside disappear, and people began cheering and singing. A small group of British soldiers stood outside and knocked on Audrey's door. They told Audrey that the Netherlands was liberated. To her, those words seemed divine. The soldiers smelled of tobacco. Audrey asked one for a cigarette and took a puff. Although she coughed from the smoke, she felt happy. The soldiers gave her 5 bars of chocolate, and she ate them all in one go. From then on, cigarettes and chocolate became Audrey's favorites. After the war, Audrey's 2 brothers returned to Arnhem. Audrey and her mother moved to Amsterdam, where her mother worked as a cook for a wealthy family to cover household expenses and Audrey's tuition. Her grandfather's family regained their manor, and the other properties were donated to the state for resettlement. People displaced by the war. To study ballet, Audrey first trained under Sonia Gaskell, a renowned Dutch ballet teacher. In 1948, she entered the Rambert Ballet School in London, studying under Marie Rambert, one of the founders of British ballet. Both masters liked Audrey, finding her diligent and talented. However, Audrey's height of 170 centimeters was too tall for a ballet dancer, and malnutrition during the war left her weighing less than 45 kilograms. Because she was too thin and lacked muscle strength, she couldn't become a prima ballerina. The shattering of her dream was painful for Audrey. But she quickly pulled herself together and decided not to obsess over it. To ease the family's financial pressure, she began changing careers. Even before entering the Rambert Dance School in 1948, Audrey had played an air stewardess in KLM's travel documentary, Dutch in 7 Days. That same autumn, she stood out from over 3,000 applicants to become an actress in the Broadway musical High Button Shoes. This performance brought Audrey an important early opportunity. In the musical High Button Shoes, with 27 scenes and only 5 actors, Audrey played multiple roles, including an innocent student and a lively shop assistant. The audience loved her energy and charm. While performing in stage plays, Audrey also took on advertising jobs, gradually learning how to speak in front of the camera and showcase her unique qualities. A photographer who had taken photos for stars like Vivian Leigh and Greta Garbo described Audrey as a breath of fresh air that lit up the room. However, her path in film was relatively bumpy. Audrey's second film was called Wild Oats, where she played a hotel receptionist with only one line of dialogue, appearing for less than a minute. After that, in several films, she still had only a few lines. It wasn't until 1951 that she landed her first major film role in The Secret People, and she played Nora, the sister of the female lead. In May of the same year, Audrey headed to the south of France to film a comedy. On the set of Monte Carlo Baby, she met her mentor, Madame Colette. Madame Colette was a national treasure of France, a female writer who was then searching for a leading lady for a new Broadway play, Gigi. The play was adapted from Madame Colette's novel, Gigi, where the protagonist Gigi was born in Paris and raised by her grandmother and aunt, who were courtesans. They taught her how to catch a wealthy husband, but Gigi, who loved freedom and was unconventional, dismissed these lessons. However, she eventually married into wealth for love. Madame Colette saw Audrey filming on the beach. She was thin but radiant and charming, with an honesty in her eyes. Audrey was beautiful enough and had a playful nature that fit the role perfectly. Madame Colette knew she had found a miracle, and so Audrey became the lead actress in Gigi. In October 1951, at the age of 22, she traveled alone to America, opening a new chapter in her life. Next, in part 2, we'll talk about how Audrey shone brilliantly on stage and screen. At first, Audrey's performance in rehearsals for Gigi was unsatisfactory. Her stage experience was lacking. Director Who said she delivered her lines without emotion and didn't portray the character well, leading to Audrey being fired several times. But the crew had no time to replace her, so they brought her back. This was a huge blow to Audrey. She was severely lacking in confidence, anxious and haggard, feeling completely broken. Fortunately, she received help from fellow actress Kathleen Nesbitt, who taught her acting exercises and how to modulate her voice pitch.
Hard work paid off. On November 24th that year, Gigi premiered.
Audrey brought Gigi to life, portraying her journey from an innocent girl to a mature woman. This premiere made Audrey an overnight sensation on Broadway and earned her the Tony Award for Best Actress, Broadway's highest honor. XKC.
The New York Times praised her as an actress who combined talent and beauty, offering a refreshing presence.
Audrey's mentor, Madame Colette, even wrote an article comparing her to another Hepburn in Hollywood, Katharine Hepburn, the American actress who won 4 Academy Awards. The unexpected success of Gigi continued until the end of its first tour in late May 1952. The following month, Audrey rushed to Rome to film Paramount's new movie, Roman Holiday. The film tells the story of Princess Anne from a European country who escapes her embassy, meets an American journalist in Rome, shares a magical day with him, falls in love but ultimately parts ways. The actress playing the princess needed regal elegance to convince audiences she was royally educated, preferably without an American accent. Director Wyler initially wanted Oscar-winning actress Elizabeth Taylor for the role. Taylor's notable works included A Place in the Sun and Cleopatra, but she was under contract with MGM. And MGM refused to let Taylor star in a Paramount film, which opened the door for Audrey. Starring opposite Audrey was 36-year-old American actor Gregory Peck, handsome, charismatic, and every bit the gentleman. And before Roman Holiday, he'd already won the 1947 Golden Globe for Best Actor for The Yearling. Filming Roman Holiday was grueling. Director Wyler, a perfectionist, would reshoot scenes over 50 times to capture naturalness. A famous scene features Peck and Audrey riding a motorcycle through Rome's streets and alleys. This sequence took several days to complete. In the story's conclusion, Princess Anne bids farewell to her lover, returns to the embassy, and resumes her royal duties. There was a scene where she had to cry while parting from her lover, but Audrey couldn't muster the emotions. They shot it many times, but it wasn't ideal. Director Wyler pretended to be angry and yelled, "Audrey, please be professional." This made Audrey cry uncontrollably, and the camera captured this shot. This take finally worked for Roman Holiday. Filming wrapped on September 25th, 1952, and it was released the following September. This pure, beautiful, and somewhat melancholic love story has endured for decades without fading. Some say that all of Rome's past and present can't compare to the longing that Roman Holiday brought to people. Audrey's portrayal of Princess Anne in the film became one of the most classic princess images on screen. For her brilliant performance in Roman Holiday, 24-year-old Audrey won the 26th Academy Award for Best Actress. Audrey's outfits in the film sparked a craze outside the theaters. Girls rushed to get the Hepburn haircut and wore the white shirt and flared skirt that the princess wore when she escaped. They stopped blindly imitating Marilyn Monroe's sexy elegance, patting their chests high, and instead embraced a fresh and refined style as the new fashion.
The film's success also led the media and fans to speculate about Audrey and Peck's relationship.
There's a behind-the-scenes photo of the two happily playing poker on set. Many fans hoped that Audrey and Peck would actually get together in real life to make up for the regret of Princess Anne and her lover parting in the film, but Peck and Audrey remained close friends for life and both had other partners at the time. Audrey's fiancé was named James Hansen, who ran a freight business in Britain and served as a commander in a demolition unit during World War II. Hansen's role made Audrey, who had experienced war, see him as a savior of freedom, and she felt deeply grateful to him. Additionally, Hansen gave Audrey a sense of security, which was exactly what she had lacked since childhood due to her father's departure. Actually, Hansen was a playboy. Before Audrey, he had dated actresses like Ava Gardner and Jean Simmons. At first, Hansen just saw Audrey as a trophy to collect, but gradually he developed genuine feelings for her. On the night of Gigi's premiere, Hansen proposed to Audrey with a diamond ring. She accepted, and they decided to return to London to get married after Roman Holiday wrapped. However, from the very beginning, Hansen showed excessive interference in Audrey's career. Before Audrey went to France to film Monte Carlo Baby, Hansen unilaterally announced to the media that Audrey could only make one film per year, claiming he was wealthy enough to support her so she could enjoy the relationship. During Audrey's filming of Roman Holiday, Hansen frequently flew to Rome to visit the set, pressuring the crew to speed up production. Then came the second season tour of Gigi, but the filming schedule was still delayed. After over 20 days of delay, Hansen sent telegrams to Paramount complaining about the crew's inefficiency. Although Audrey appreciated Hansen's care, she disagreed with his approach, believing the delays were understandable. While pressuring the crew, Hansen also unilaterally announced through media that the wedding would be held in Britain on September 30th. Regrettably, Miss Hepburn was still in Rome filming Roman Holiday. This announcement caused an uproar, but Paramount refused to disrupt filming for personal matters. Instead, they gifted Audrey all Princess Anne's custom costumes, plus a bonus. Roman Holiday wrapped on September 25th. Days later, Audrey flew to New York for Gigi's second season tour, and the wedding never happened. In November, Audrey and Hansen issued a joint statement announcing their amicable separation. Audrey explained that her career was just starting, and she couldn't yet fulfill the responsibilities of a wife and mother. More crucially, Audrey's mother objected after accidentally seeing a gossip piece in the newspaper. The gossip reported Hansen dating multiple women at a hotel. After Roman Holiday, Audrey starred in Sabrina, War and Peace, and Funny Face, earning her second Best Actress Oscar nomination for Sabrina. Sabrina also marked the beginning of Audrey's friendship with renowned designer Hubert de Givenchy. In 1953, while selecting costumes for Sabrina, Audrey met Givenchy. Givenchy's style, simple, elegant, and unique, perfectly matched Audrey's temperament. He became Audrey's exclusive designer, establishing her unparalleled fashion status. Audrey once said, "Givenchy is the person who understands me best. He made me who I am." Givenchy compared Audrey to a star in the sky, giving himself endless inspiration. In 1957, Audrey played the lead role, Sister Luke, in the film The Nun's Story. This book calls this film Audrey's most soulful work. In the original story, Sister Luke is a Belgian nun who studied medicine, cared for leprosy patients in the Belgian Congo, and returned to Belgium during World War II. Working as a doctor in the army due to her religious beliefs, she treated both Allied and Nazi wounded equally. But her father was killed by the Nazis, which made Sister Luke reconsider the meaning of religion. The film omits specific details of War II, instead focusing on Sister Luke's faith and moral struggles. The Nun's Story originally invited Ingrid Bergman, but Bergman felt she was too old for the role and recommended Audrey Hepburn. Audrey personally went to the leprosy colony in Congo to film, where she never wore gloves to show respect for the patients, and she helped others during breaks. In 1959, The Nun's Story was released, and tickets were hard to come by. Audrey also received her third Oscar nomination for Best Actress for this film.
In 1960, Audrey received the invitation for breakfast at Tiffany's.
The image of the film's female lead, Holly, wearing a little black dress, a pearl necklace, and holding a long cigarette holder, became one of Audrey's most iconic screen images. Breakfast at Tiffany's is adapted from the novel of the same name by the famous American writer Truman Capote. Holly is a girl who came from the countryside to New York to chase her dreams and became a socialite. In Capote's view, the ideal actress for Holly was the beautiful and sexy Marilyn Monroe. Although Audrey was elegant, she wasn't suitable for the role. Audrey herself hesitated when she received a script because her personality wasn't as outgoing as Holly's, and she was afraid she wouldn't perform well. But she ultimately brought Holly to life. And, in 1961, Breakfast at Tiffany's was released and hailed as Audrey Hepburn's brilliant masterpiece. The little black dress she wore in the film was auctioned at Christie's in 2006 for a high price of £400,000, approximately 3.38 million yuan. As a result, Audrey received her fourth Oscar nomination, and the song Moon River she sang won the Best Original Song award. During a test screening, Paramount's producer wanted to cut this song, but Audrey declared, "Over my dead body will you remove this song." Some say this song makes people forget Holly's, vain and selfish side, revealing her innocence and charm instead. Audrey's persistence won the audience's approval. While shining brightly on screen, Audrey also entered into marriage. She had children. Next, in part 3, we'll discuss her personal life. Audrey's first husband, Mel Ferrer, was an American actor, director, and writer, also a friend of Gregory Peck. Audrey and Mel met in 1953 at the premiere of Roman Holiday. At the dinner party, they shared a dance. Months later, they began dating and co-starred in the stage play Undine.
To outsiders, Mel wasn't a good match. He interfered in Audrey's affairs, even controlling what she ate.
The media claimed Mel was only using Audrey to advance his acting career. The director of Undine later admitted they had to cast Mel as lead to secure Audrey. Even Audrey's mother opposed their marriage, but Audrey insisted, believing Mel's maturity gave her security. Mel also helped Audrey reconnect with her long-lost father, helping her resolve emotional burdens. In September 1954, 25-year-old Audrey married Mel in Switzerland. After 2 miscarriages, Audrey finally gave birth to son Sean in 1960, fulfilling her motherhood dream, but marital problems gradually surfaced. While Audrey received acclaim for The Nun's Story and Breakfast at Tiffany's, Mel's acting career declined. He complained that when with Audrey, no one noticed him, and people only brought scripts to access Audrey through him. He even had Audrey's publicist, Rogers, demand payment from Givenchy for endorsing perfume Len Interdit, Givenchy's first fragrance, originally a gift to Audrey. To thank Audrey for her support, Givenchy named the perfume after her, and throughout 1957, it belonged exclusively to Audrey. It wasn't until 1958 that Givenchy released the perfume to the market, renaming it La Interdit. Later, Audrey also shot an advertisement campaign for Givenchy's L'Eau Interdit.
Well felt that Givenchy took unfair advantage in this situation. People bought the perfume because of Audrey, yet Givenchy didn't pay her a penny, and Audrey never received discounts on Givenchy clothing. Whoa, I loved kit bags. Well,
Rogers was ordered to approach Givenchy, who readily agreed to the demand, deeply hurting Audrey.
She told Rogers that her bond with Givenchy never required monetary validation.
But then Rogers, at Mel's urging, approached Cannes Film Festival organizers to create a special award for Audrey. Audrey had to fire Rogers, realizing the root issue was her husband. For her son Sean's sake, Audrey tried to save the marriage, but in 1965, after her 3rd miscarriage, she returned from hospital to find Mel had left without a word. Audrey became completely disillusioned with this marriage. In 1967, she and Mel divorced by mutual agreement, ending their 13-year marriage. By then, she had starred in films like My Fair Lady, Two for the Road, and Wait Until Dark, earning her 5th Oscar nomination for Wait Until Dark. Audrey announced a temporary retirement from acting to focus on raising her son at their Swiss home. Now, in 1968, invited by friends to vacation in Greece, Audrey met Andrea Dotti, an Italian psychiatrist 9 years her junior, a professor at the University of Rome, and a count, who pursued her. The next year, they married in Switzerland and had son Luca. Audrey wanted to be a homemaker, but Dotti unilaterally told media she'd return to acting. Moreover, Dotti was a notorious womanizer, and media captured photos of him with other women in compromising situations. Audrey's 2nd marriage ended after 13 years. Later, Audrey admitted to her friend Givenchy that she suffered deeply from lost love. And what she said, "I admit this is life's greatest failure." Fortunately, at 51, Audrey met Dutch actor Robert Wolders. Both cherished quiet lives, loved children and animals, reading and walks. Audrey said they were soul twins, and Robert, a financial expert, managed her wealth and shielded her from media intrusion. Identifying truly compelling invitations. Audrey and Robert never married. For them, A marriage certificate wasn't needed to prove their love. They spent over a decade together. Starting in 1981, Audrey lost her parents and close friends consecutively, making her feel life's fragility and prompting her to dedicate herself to charity.
In 1988, she became a Goodwill ambassador for UNICEF, using her influence to help children.
She woke up at 4 a.m. daily to work, handled everything personally, and wrote her own speeches after research. By that Christmas, Audrey had raised over $20 million for UNICEF. Some accused her of seeking publicity. She retorted, "Do you think Audrey Hepburn needs to hype her fame?" Audrey told Robert this new work energized her, wishing for 48 hours each day. In May 1989, she starred in her final film, Always, donating nearly $1 million of her salary to UNICEF. In 1992, Audrey traveled to Somalia to visit children affected by war. After returning, she developed abdominal pain. Tests revealed she had colon cancer. In early 1993, Audrey received the SAG Life Achievement Award and UNICEF's Danny Kaye Humanitarian Award, but couldn't attend. On January 20th, Audrey Hepburn passed away at her Swiss home, aged 63. Before dying, her son Sean asked, "Do you have any regrets?" She said, "I have no regrets, thank you. I just don't understand why so many children suffer." These were her final words. The New York Times wrote in her obituary, even as time etched lines on her forehead and crow's feet around her eyes, softening her jawline, people still felt moved, smiled, and remembered when thinking of Audrey Hepburn. A year later, Sean founded the Audrey Hepburn Memorial Fund to provide welfare education for African children, continuing to bring this angel's love to those in need. All right, that concludes our interpretation of Audrey Hepburn, who lived a life of grace. Well, the listening notes are below the audio. See you next time.